Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast, where we focus on how authors found success, looking at strategies that have taken them to the top of the bestseller charts, as well as what they've learned from their mistakes. Because being an indie author is more than knowing the latest marketing trend. It's about being innovative and creative and learning from your mistakes.
Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sara Rosett.
And I'm Jami Albright. And this week on the show we have
Victoria Tait.
Yes, we do. And it is so great. And y'all, we're doing something new for the next 3 to 4 weeks. One of our guests had a little bit of a scheduling issue, but we think we're going to be able to work it out. But we're going to talk to newer authors, like not authors that have been doing this for years, but that have been publishing for at least a year.
A couple of years.
Some of them even less, because they're doing a pen name sort of thing. So we've done 2 interviews and they've been great. And so I think you're going to really love it. And because you do get a different perspective from newer authors.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be a different perspective. And we talked to them about some of those new author questions, like how did you find your editor and cover designer, and how long did it take you to write your first book? And it's just a completely different perspective than somebody who's been doing this for 10 years. Because, when you're new, there are different challenges now than there were even when Jami started.
I published 4.5 years ago. Yeah.
So I think it'll be really interesting. And so we start off with Victoria, and she talks about how she's been focusing on her email, building her email list, and how she wrote one series, but she's pivoted to another, and how she's, just really trying to publish on a shoestring now, whereas before maybe she spent some higher dollar amount, and now she's going a little bit more, what would you call it? Economical. Yeah. So just different ways to publish. And it was really interesting to talk to her. And I think y'all really enjoy it.
Yeah. She's using some Dean Wesley Smith techniques, which, are publishing on a shoestring budget. And that is one way to do it. So that she talks about that in here. So what's been going on with you, Sara?
This week has been interesting. I've had like 3 doctor's appointments in the last week and a half, but nothing bad. But it's just, that takes time. And I'm very much in a routine person. I love my routine. And so it's very hard to get back into, it's hard for me to get things done when I'm got all these other things. Yeah. So, but I have made a little progress on my book. I did a Clubhouse thing today with, we're recording this on what is today, the 14th of October. So it's Thursday. And I did a Clubhouse room with Ricardo from Reedsy and Dan from Draft Digital. And we talked about translations.
Yep.
And that was really interesting. We talked about like covers and, just different, like how you get started and how you keep track of everything. And so it was very good. So we did that. That was lots of fun. And I am making progress in the translations. The thing I said was that it's taken a lot more time than I realized it would. And I'm almost to the point where I'm ready to launch the first one. And I just have to get all my things together so I can start uploading it. So yay. I feel like it's been like a long process.
I think it has. But I mean, it feels like it has to me, and I'm not doing it. So there you go.
Well, it feels the same way to me. So what about you? What have you been doing?
Well, I am still working on my talk for 20 books. Sara and I got together and talked about it a little bit. And then this week has been my youngest grandson's birthday. So I don't know if you all remember last year when I was in Dallas for 7 weeks waiting for this baby to come. And he, 7 weeks later, he came.
The drama.
Yes. And, we laughed and said that, we knew he was coming. Any day he was coming. And then when he came, because he was born at home, we had nothing there, like nothing. We had no wipes. We had no thermometer. It was hilarious. Anyway, but that's been fun this week, just kind of reliving that. And I've kind of been taking it easy. I still haven't started writing. I am taking a little break. And I've just been refilling the well. I've watched a lot of great TV. I watched The Forest on Netflix. It's a French show and it's a French mystery. It's so good.
Write it down right now.
Yes, I watched Squid Games, which I thought I mean, it's super, super, super violent, but it's such a good story. I mean, I was so surprised. My nephew just said, you have to watch it, Aunt Jay. You have to watch it. So I thought, okay, I'll watch it. Because he and I talk movies a lot. And it was really great. But the best thing I've done this week as far as entertainment is I listened to the 3 books in Charlene Harris's Gunny Rose series. Yeah. And it's urban fantasy, but it's a weird and I love urban fantasy, but it's a little bit of a weird take. There is magic. But she's a gunslinger. I mean, she's a gunning. She's a gun slinger, and she's a hired gun. And it was so good. Like, I've had a little bit of a book hangover afterwards. There are only 3 in the series, and I think the series is done. But it was just so good. So good. And so I've really enjoyed that. So in not thinking about writing and doing some things that fill my creative well, I actually think I'm going to go buy some knitting needles and some yarn today, because I do knit a little. Mostly I can only knit a straight line. So, scarves are about all I can make. And, but I've been wanting to knit. So I think I'm going to get that and just do that. But the plan is to start writing in the next week or so. I mean, I'm working on, the kind of the structure of my book and stuff. But as far as actually putting words down, I haven't done it. But I just needed to fill my well, and I have this week and last week. So it's been good.
Well, I'm so impressed you're a knitter. I did not know that about you.
Yeah, well, I'm not. Don't be too impressed.
Well, you can knit. That's more than I can do. I have zero talent when it comes to those things.
I had some knitting needles and some yarn, but I remembered that I threw them out about a year and a half ago because they were taking up space in my closet. And I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And now I'm like, my hands, I just want to knit. And so
that's hilarious. I thought you were going to say you got so frustrated you threw them away.
No, or used them as a weapon, but no.
Yes. Many mystery novels have knitting needles.
Exactly.
So well, that was,
yes.
I was going to say that's funny that you watched the French show. I've written that one down because I'm still down the rabbit hole of my French TV shows. So I'm watching, Astrid is excellent.
Astrid, yeah.
And there's one called The Little Murders of Agatha Christie, which is, it took me a little while to get into it, but now I'm into season 2 and I'm in, and it's just really well done. It's really good. So good French TV out there. And,
what channel is it? I mean, what?
It's on, I believe it's through PBS, I believe. Masterpiece.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You told me. And then, of course, there was Ted Lasso, the season finale of Ted Lasso, Nate the Snake. And
spoiler.
Well, but it was so good. I loved it.
Yeah.
And there was one other thing I was going to say that, Only Murders in the Building.
Yes, Hulu. I've got to catch up on that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, it started out kind of slow for me, and I hung with it because, I'm like, surely these 3 great actors, and comedians can make every episode just gets better and better for me. It's so good. And my favorite line from the whole season, I might have already said this, was, "We're bringing Sting a morning turkey."
Yeah.
That's my favorite line. It's so funny. And so there's one more episode this season. So.
Yeah, I think that one, I'm used to watching mysteries that are episodic. And so you get the whole mystery in one episode, and this is drawn out. And so it's totally different.
It's very
feel
different
to it. Yeah.
But, and it's the whole podcast thing, which, of course, I'm totally
love.
into.
Yeah. Well, so before we go to the episode, we should do a question of the week.
Yes, let's do that.
All right. So,
and what should that be?
Let me throw it back to you, Jami.
Tell us what you've done to build your newsletter.
Perfect.
Yeah. Tell us some things you've done to build your newsletter.
And how did you start? What did you to get your newsletter started? Because that can be
how did
really
you go
hard.
from 0 to 20 people, from 20 people to, or something like that? Because I just feel like that's, we're all doing different things sometimes, and then we're all doing the same thing. So somebody may have a new idea.
Yeah. So you can answer in the Facebook group, Wish I'd Known Then for writers. And you just have to, if you're not in there, you just answer a couple of questions. They're super easy. We'll let you in and we'll see everybody there.
Sara and I from Houston.
Just in case you need to know that. All right. Here is Victoria.
Yep.
This week, we're really happy to have Victoria Tait with us. Hi, Victoria. How are you doing?
Hi. Good to be with you guys.
Hi, Victoria. We're so glad you're here.
Yeah. Let me read your bio and we'll get into the questions. Victoria Tait is the author of the enchanting Kenya Kanga mystery series. She's drawn on 8 years' experience living in rural Kenya with her family to write vivid and evocative books. Her silver-haired sleuth, Mama Rose Hardy, has been described as Agatha Christie's Miss Marple, reincarnated and living in Kenya. Victoria left Kenya to follow the beat of the drum and support her military husband. They currently live in Sarajevo in Bosnia. Despite the added difficulties of traveling and moving during the pandemic, she's fascinated by living in different places, meeting new people, and immersing herself in diverse cultures. So we're so excited to have you.
We're glad to have you. So tell us how you got into writing, Victoria.
Unlike most people, I had no wish to write, hadn't even thought about it before January 2019. Yeah, I think Jami got the same. But I was sitting in a house in military quarters back in the UK, having left Kenya, with hardly any furniture because I'd either sold it or it was on a boat somewhere coming from Africa. And thinking, what am I going to do with my life? We're moving to Bosnia for 3 years. Then I don't know where. I can't set up a physical business because you just don't have time on postings. And actually, it's really difficult to get jobs because you don't speak the lingo and because of local employment rules. Yeah. So I sort of thought, what do I do? I'm not quite sure how I came across it, but I came across Joanna Penn's podcast. That was the first thing that I did.
Wow.
And having just done these strengths tests from following the podcast that you had recently, I'm very much a learner and an activator. So it's like, I like this, like the sound of this. So I went up and every guest that Joanna had, I then went and read their books and I learned more about it. And I thought, this is something that I can do remotely whilst traveling around and supporting my husband and also looking after the family and being flexible.
That's great. That's amazing. Yeah.
And I can certainly identify with that because my husband was in the military, and I don't know what they call spouses in the UK, but in the US, they say you're a trailing spouse. So like they are sent somewhere and then it sounds awful. It sounds like you're just barely dragging along, able to go with them, but you can't, it's really difficult to find work. And I found too that writing is something that can be done anywhere. And it was what I focused on too, because it's just very difficult to have a continual employment every time you move. So.
Yeah, I think it's all right if you already have a skill. But my skills were firstly in the construction industry, and then in Kenya I set up a farm shop. So it's not easily transferable. And I need to have something that to get up in the morning and go and do something which is achieve. I feel like I've achieved something. And I'm not into spending time on social media or just whiling away my time or going shopping. So I needed something with purpose.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, I'm glad you found writing. So tell us how long did it take you to write your first book? And
so that was January
that.
January when I thought about it. And then I did things like I found your course on cozy mysteries and I read your book. And I knew because I liked, I originally read Agatha Christie, I liked MC Beaton, and I thought this is probably a genre I can write in because I don't know a lot about forensic or police procedural, and you don't need to with cozy mysteries. You just need to be quite organised. And you can structure it around the mystery, so then you can bring the other components together. So I think I planned it whilst on holiday on a Scottish island in the rain in April, and I started writing in May. And I must have written the first bit about 3 times, the first sort of 5,000 words. And then I think I got to about 30,000 words and thought, I don't really know what I'm doing because I haven't got anyone to help me. And I bumped into a children's author at a book fair down in Devon when we were on holiday in the summer. And she told me about a charity in the UK called Arvin who help writers. And back in the day, they did residential courses.
Wow.
And there was a residential course for fiction, for crime fiction writing. So I went on that, which was brilliant. And I learned two really important things from that. One was voice. So it's very much about the camera sitting in the sky, on your shoulder or in your head to help me bring. I think probably I hadn't my books weren't personal enough. There wasn't enough in the head. And the second was it's never too early to get an editor. So if I didn't want to go to writing groups because most of mine were sort of, in the evening, I was too tired or whatever, or there weren't any locally. So I found an editor and she helped me with the first couple of scenes, the first 5,000 words, the first 15,000 words, and then I was away. And once we'd done that, I just wrote the next. I wrote 60,000 and I finished just before Christmas in 2019.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's wonderful.
That is so great. Yes. Awesome initiative. Yeah. I floundered for a lot longer than that. So that's really great. So when while you were writing it, had you thought of a marketing plan? I mean, did you really think you were going to publish it? Or was it just something you wrote and thought, I'll do something, how serious were you about publishing? And then if you were, had you thought of a marketing plan?
I was definitely serious about publishing, but I wanted to have the right product first. And my first thought about the marketing plan was I had to have more than one book.
Great.
And so I initially thought I need to have 3 books. So I finished that book and I edited my first book in the January and I sent it to my editor and then I parked it because I knew that my writing was not perfect. So I wanted to write 3 books so that I could come back to the first book and make sure
fix it. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That is really smart.
And then so the second thing I then did, when did you start your podcast? Was that February
2020, February 2020? Yeah.
So I remember one of the first, that was just sort of as I'd finished that book I was finishing editing that first book when you started your podcast, and one of the first things you said, Jami, was to get your mailing list going and get it going early. So I remembered that, and then I got Mark Dawson's 101 course, which I think is brilliant for newbie writers because it really walks you through front matter, back matter, some of the basic marketing strategies, even if you do or you don't want to do ads. It was just a really good walkthrough. And so
because there's so much more to marketing than ads. I mean, that's front matter, back matter, that's marketing. And I still use Mark's model for my back matter in my books. I mean, I just do in my automation system. So I think that's really smart.
I mean, I did make one mistake because I didn't link when I eventually got it. I didn't put the link for the next book in my first book. So when I launched my first book, I hadn't got the pre-order up, and that's something I've learned now, because I know some people say, on Amazon you shouldn't put a pre-order up too early, but if you do, and people like your book, they're going to buy your book when they read the last one, they're going to get the next one. So I've certainly found now that helps by having that link through, because I get more pre-orders.
Right. Yeah, that's very good. And are you in Kindle Unlimited or are you wide?
I'm wide because I like the idea of being wide, and also because it's an international book.
Very good.
I thought it would have international appeal, and I've certainly got readers from South Africa in particular who are interested in it. But it is interesting because when I launched and I launched at 99 cents, I got quite a lot of Indian readers who haven't come back, and I think talking to someone, that's a price point. I think if you're a voracious reader in India, I think you're in Kindle Unlimited.
Right.
So I'm starting a new series now, and I'm contemplating trying it because what's the worst you can do? You can come out. I don't want to go from wide into Kindle Unlimited.
It's better to start Kindle Unlimited and then go wide.
It's easier to go that direction.
That's so smart. Well, I'm so glad our podcast helped you. That's awesome.
But it's not only that. I mean, I remember because it got to that stage of course, we went into lockdown. And so every Wednesday morning I queued at the supermarket, and I was so scared to start with about going out and about going shopping. Although the people I met there, it was the same group every Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock. And we got to know each other, but it was your podcast I listened to on the way back while I was putting my shopping out, getting to the house. I really remember.
That's so awesome. That's great.
That's terrific. Well, that makes us happy to hear that. So
yes,
that's great. because for us, it was a lifesaver for us. To be able to talk to people. So it's great to hear to imagine someone going shopping and listening to it. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we were all in a world, weren't we? I mean, I knew it was the guy at the checkout counter. I saw more of and knew more about his family than I did about my friends. And
yes.
It's anybody.
Yeah.
It was just a strange time.
Very strange. Yeah. Exactly.
What do you know now that you didn't know when you got started?
Oh, well, I mean, I didn't know anything when I got started, which is probably quite good because I had no preconceived ideas. And I suppose the first thing we're listening to Joanna Penn is it's like, yes, you can go and do this as an indie because I'm quite a control freak. And I like, if I do something, I like to get it done. You know, I couldn't bear waiting a year to get a book out. So there is so much that I've learned. You know, one is making sure you've got your back matter up to date. I mean, it's interesting because going to that first book, I'm actually re-editing it now. So although it took 8 months to write, it's like 8 months plus 2 years because here I am again, and it's amazing how I can see that it needs tidying up because I'm about to publish. In November, I'll publish the 6th book in that series. And then I want to be able to do box sets and things. So I want to make sure the first book, which, you know, does all the work, is as good as it can be to them, so I can then market the whole series. So it is interesting because it does see how your writing changes as improves. I think in fact, I relax more with the writing. I think to start with, you think you need to have all these metaphors and similes and all this stuff my kids have been taught at school. And then you think, actually, you don't.
Yeah. Just tell the story. Yeah.
Tell the story. Be natural.
Yeah. Use the voice that comes and then build on that if you find that that's what people really like. If people aren't liking it, then find a different voice or create or cater your voice more towards the genre, I guess. But I think that what you've done is really, really smart. And so have you marketed at all yet? Or, I mean, like ads and stuff? I know you've done some marketing, but.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, so after I wrote the first book, I then wrote my reader magnet, which is what you guys did. And then that was, I put Facebook ads out to that in May 2020, and of course the great thing was they weren't very expensive,
right? Yeah.
So it sort of worked, and I got quite a lot of people onto my mailing list. So my mailing list was a good size when I started, and then
that's fantastic.
So my marketing efforts have really started from my list upwards. That's what I've realized is that because when I put links in the backs of my books and to the reader magnet to start with, people weren't going back to it. There wasn't getting signups that way, but I get signups from the reader magnet through to the book, and so that's what I've concentrated quite a lot on.
That's great.
And kept doing that, and then I have, then I threw a bit of spaghetti at the wall, as you always do. When I went with all the promo sites and because I kept getting rejected, but actually I couldn't afford to do that now anyway.
Yeah.
And then I thought, right, well, I've just got to calm down. So I think I listened to on a conference, I think it was Clayton Noblet said in one conference, was pick one thing and do it for 3 months. So I stood back and I was like, right, okay, I'm going to try Amazon ads. I'm going to go for the Amazon ads school and to try that. So I think I did the November challenge with Brian Cohen. And I sort of did a bit, and then in January I really picked that up and I really got on and did the ads, and then it coincided in February the launch of my 3rd book. And Sarah, I don't know if you find this at Cozy Mysteries, but your books, the 3rd book is when people start to really buy because they need to see that series.
I think so. I think
they want to invest.
They want to know, especially if you launch and there's threads in that first, they're going to hold off a little bit. I think, to make sure that you do actually have more books coming. And I think that's why you were saying you like pre-orders, and that can help let people know that there are more books coming.
Yeah, definitely. Because I had a pre-order. I think that was the first time I put a pre-order in. So immediately I got pre-orders through to the 4th book.
Right.
But I definitely saw an increase in sales when I got to that 3rd book, which then, although I'm not in Kindle Unlimited, I think Amazon, the Amazon ads I'm not spending huge amounts of money on it, but it just tootles away. I keep tinkering with it. I keep adding to it, changing my keywords. And I think it just keeps it going at a steady rate, which I can then build on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's very common for authors who are wide. It's not like we have a huge launch or a huge sale. We're not focused on the big incline. It's more like the slow and steady kind of drip marketing, I guess you'd call it, or something like that, where you just keep it going and you keep it rolling and it just keeps going. And since rank doesn't matter as much when you're wide, it's okay, I think. But,
Yeah. So where did you find your editor and cover designer?
So my editor, so as I say, going back to the course I went on, and when they said to me, you need to find an editor, exactly that, where do I go? And I did look on Readsy, because there are some good people there. And then I actually went back to Joanna Penn's website, and she's got a list of editors who I'm not sure she necessarily endorses, but they're certainly. But anyway, I mean, I think they are good editors. So I went to start. She's got so many resources on there, and I think I found 3 and submitted to them, and 2 came back to me, and then I looked at the samples, and I went with one lady from there in California, and she was just brilliant.
That's great.
That was great.
Yeah. And cover designer?
Cover designer, I can't remember. I did an awful lot of looking around on that. One thing I was bothered about at the beginning was the idea of royalties, and wanting to make sure that I had rights or whatever to use the book covers. And I know that with some designers, they kept theirs. And so if you wanted to make changes, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's such an issue now. So so I found ebook launch, Dale ebook launch was just brilliant, because mine are illustrated covers of Africa. They are fantastic, but I would say they're also slightly more on the expensive end. And I'm not selling, this is one of the things I really had to learn is my expenditure was greater than my sales are. So yes, you can increase sales, but actually the first thing you can do is reduce the costs. So for my new series, because I want to keep on writing, for my new series, I've actually went when there was one of the sales, and stunning book covers, and got some pre-mades.
No, that's great.
Yeah, you can find great pre-mades sometimes.
Yeah, I saw one and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a little bit harder with cozies, I think, than some genres to find pre-mades, because I don't know why. There's just not as many cozy cover artists. Have you found that? Did you have a hard time when you were looking?
I did, but Mariah Sinclair she's a cozy designer, and she's actually putting together, I think she's putting together directory. It's brilliant. And so there's quite a lot of Facebook groups. So I did find some. I was quite surprised when I really started looking. There was quite a few people who specialized. But what I didn't realize is you can get cozy covers and you get series, but you can change them. So you don't have to keep the exact image. I thought you bought it and that was it.
Yeah.
But for a fee, they will say, okay, I need a grandfather clock rather than a mantelpiece clock in this one. And it's just a matter of you pay however much for the new image, and she'll swap it in. So, that's great. Still makes it a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. That's what we wanted to ask that, because that's something that a lot of people kind of get stuck on with starting out, is like, how do you find all these specialist freelancers to help you? So I think it always helps to hear how people found their editor and cover designer. So thanks for sharing.
No, not at all. I mean, it's interesting. I think another I've actually just been looking at whether for a non-fiction book getting a cover done, which I thought, I'll do it myself. But if you want to do print, then that's a whole different ballgame and costs more. And there's 100 book covers, which Jay Thorne and Dave at Kindlepreneur have been promoting, and that is their basic package is $100 for a cover.
Well, that's excellent.
So that
is excellent.
Because that's really good. Yeah.
Well, through all this, what's been the biggest surprise to you? What's been most unexpected?
I think it was when I put that novella out there to start with, and you put your books out into the world, and I knew not everybody was going to like it. I just hoped somebody would like it. And people did. And to the extent I got some emails of people saying how much they enjoyed my books. And I was absolutely amazed. People had bothered to email me, and most of those I still get on with now, and actually dedicated my last book to them. And I know one of the ladies went, "Oh, I'm famous. I'm in your dedication."
That's funny.
So that, I think for me, it's, I'd like to make a living from it, which I'm not yet. I'd like to do all of this, but actually, just, when you sit here on your own and, I'm tapping away on my computer in the attic, and then somebody writes an email, or I think this week I had a review, and it's just like, this is fantastic. I absolutely loved it. It makes it worthwhile. And as you guys have said about the podcast, it's been a really difficult year. So if we can just bring a bit of a brighter note into somebody's life.
Exactly.
Isn't that good? I mean, how many people can say they do that?
Right. Not very many. And I am exactly where you're at, especially with the book launching tomorrow. I'm just like, I'm only, I'm just trying to focus on the fact that I just want to bring a little happiness and a little laughter into somebody's life. That is really where I'm at right now. So it's awesome when you get those emails. They kind of make my day. Yeah. So that's great. So what has been the hardest thing, and what's been the best thing about this journey of yours? Relatively short journey of yours.
I suppose it's less than 2 years, but I'm not one for hanging around.
She's an activator.
Me too. I am too. So yeah, I get it. Yeah,
activator and learner. So that's it.
Yeah.
I think it has been, and it's been the people. So it's been the readers coming back saying how much they've enjoyed it, and it's been the authors, because again, I'm in Bosnia. I don't physically meet other authors.
Right.
Be able to connect online with various people it's been great, and the support and the community is fantastic for that. And I think the hardest thing was, as I say, I knew I wasn't going to be, in my first book, was not going to be a huge seller. I just hoped that by the time I got to the third book, I would be about breaking even. And I'm not writing totally to genre, so it's not.
Right.
So I've done 6 in the series. I can now bundle them up, and I need to look at some different, probably out of the box marketing for those. But it was then saying, right, I got to the stage where I know I need to write another series. I think I know how I want to write it, but I can't afford to publish it. Because in the summer of 2020, I was supposed to have a job in an event management company. Of course, that didn't happen. So
right.
I had no spare cash. So it's like, right, I've gone through my savings. What do I do now? And I think it was when I wrote to Dean Wesley Smith about he has a course for a challenge, which is the novel writing challenge, which is write a book every 2 months for a year. So you end up with 6 books. And I think and part of it is write the book in the 2 months. And I went, okay, I'll do that. And then send me the print cover or a copy of your book within a month. And I went, well, look, I can't do that because it's got to go to an editor, and I've got a cover designer, and I've got it. And he wrote back and said, what are you talking about? You're not writing to committee. He said, you don't need all these people. This is about getting your work out there, which was totally different, and a complete mindset shift from everything I've been told, which was you must have your editor, and then you must have your copy editor, and you must do this, and you must do that. And he said, look, I can launch a book for $1.
Really? Wow.
Which is the image I buy. That's what he said. He said, for an image that I can buy for my cover, and then I can launch that book.
Right.
So that was like, phew, it just cleared my head. So it just went, okay, I can sit down and I can write. And then I needn't worry about the other things too much. And then as I get a little bit of money, I can put it away for savings, and then I can buy my book covers, which I have to now. And I have enough that every 3 months I can pay my copy editor, who's a friend and who I've done a deal with. And I bought myself a grammar book so I could actually try and clean up my grammar, because it was hopeless.
Yes, mine is too. In fact, I just had to make a post. I made a post on TikTok today, and then on Instagram, and then I just had to put in the comments, yes, now I see that grammar mistake. It's sort of my brand. Sorry. Thank God for a good editor. I mean, that is so sad. So stinking sad. So yeah, what book did you get? I might need it. So
Grammar for Dummies.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I still don't understand it particularly, but I do now run everything through Pro Writing Aid, which I had already got. And so in fact, I've just been doing that today. And that certainly picks up quite a bit of stuff. And so with my copy editor, I did a deal that if I learned some of the basic rules, which I kept getting wrong time and time again, then she would do it for a lower amount. And also she likes the books, she reads them, and she's good enough now that if there's a major plot point, she'll pick it up. She'll say, this isn't right.
That's great. That's just fantastic.
Great when you get to the point where your editors are looking forward to your books because they want to read them. That to me says you've got a really good match, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Well, that is really interesting. I mean, there are different schools of thought in like how much time you should take in preparing and publishing.
Right.
And I think for certain personality types like mine, I can get so bogged down in the details and the research and stuff that I don't make progress. And sometimes it's good to have somebody come along and kind of give you a little shove and keep you going. So that is good. So are you doing the book every 2 months this year for 2021, or is it on a different calendar, or how is that working?
It just works and when you decide to do it. So I did it I started just after I had COVID, which was really sensible, wasn't it? But anyway, different life shift. So I started end of April, and I wrote the 5th book in my series, which I then launched in August. I've written the 6th book in the series, which launches in November. So that's that series sort of put away and done. And now what I'm doing actually is I'm writing the new series. So it's taken a little bit longer because it's been summer holidays. The kids have been home. It's been a bit chaotic. And because I'm doing a new series, it's taken quite a long time to get my characters right. Yes. And I keep changing them. But I'm writing a reader magnet as my first book. And I'm finding that quite useful because I can make the changes, and I know that if I do make mistakes and later I want to go back and make some changes, I can do, because it's only going to be for my mailing list.
Right. Yeah. That's the advantage to doing it that way.
Yeah.
We kind of touched on this a little bit, but about mindset shifts. Is there anything else that you've had to kind of change the way you think? Any big mindset shifts you've had over like this time you've been writing?
Well, I suppose, so we've got the sort of the whole money side of it, and the sales and income side. And then also I kept saying, it's all right. It's not short term. This is a long term thing. But actually, when you put a book out there, you don't think like that, because you want sales now. You want to get on with it. And so I've really had to think, do you know what? This really is a long term thing. What am I looking for? And what I'm looking for is my husband will have to leave the army in 8 years' time. And I'm sure he'll get another job or something. But that's my aim, is to have a full-time income or living wage for 8 years. So that actually in indie author terms, that's a lifetime.
Yeah.
That's like eons.
It is really. That's great though. Yeah.
So it's not easy to think that, but that is what I've had to do because it has been quite short, and I've got here quite quickly. And it's difficult because as I've been going back, I've been editing that first book, and I've seen how many mistakes I've made. But if I hadn't put that book out there and I hadn't read the next book and the next book, I would have known about those mistakes that I made. Right. So I sort of had to put that out and do it and move on the journey to realize how far I got and what I needed to go back and do, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. I think it's so smart, and I wish I had more of that attitude, because I do get caught up in it needs to be perfect. It needs to be, which I know I can't make it perfect. So then I have to go through all these machinations to get it perfect. So yeah, I think that's really great.
Look, you launched a book and it was mega successful, your first book. So, you got a lot right.
Right. Well, I did get a lot right, but that's because I had really good people around me that really helped me do that. So, but it's funny because recently I've been thinking about the things I wish I'd known. And there are a couple of things that I'm like, man, I really did not do that well. Like that really was that was kind of a flop. But because of momentum and some other things going on with the other books, it turned out okay. So I think that you're right. Just getting those books out there and making sure, it's just, you're just building something. You're building something. And that's what's really important to think about, the long-term thing. So tell us about how, like, your books are set in Africa and they're slightly different from the cozy market. So what are the things you've run into that you think kind of have been a problem, or things that you think have helped you because of that?
I suppose to start with, it's what I knew, and it was something different that I could write about. So it helped me get started, certainly.
Right.
Because I had a passion. I think I was probably feeling a bit homesick. I was sitting, in the UK in January and thinking, it's a bit foggy and it's raining here, and I could be in Africa.
Yes.
And it's sunny. So, I wonder what people are doing there.
Yes. Yeah.
And also, it's just such a different way of life. They're not materialistic. The people there, they think about the day to day. They enjoy the beauty of the surroundings. They enjoy the small things in life. So I thought that's a really good thing.
Right.
To write about and bring up. And so I have got some absolutely fantastic readers. I've got my advanced reader group who I sort of look at as my aunties. Mm-hmm. They actually all know far more about it than I do, and they're brilliant at giving me advice as well as support.
That's fantastic.
So they're fantastic. They are fantastic. But my readers tend to be those who have or who know something of Africa. So I suppose it limits the market. I think for readers in the UK, they're possibly more likely to go and read about things further afield. But I think for America, and I'm probably been overgeneralizing massively, but I think a lot of people, it's not necessarily of interest to them. Although I've had readers who picked them up and said, I would never have thought of doing this.
Right.
I think that's the interesting thing about cozies is that they really can give you a window into a world that you don't know anything about. And a lot of readers are like, yes, take me there. Let me see. I want to see what it's like to live in Africa or to work at this job that I've never heard of. But then at the same time, it's also a limiting factor because it can, but I've experienced the same thing with my travel cozies, that they just don't do as well as like a typical, I guess what you'd say, in air quotes, cozy set in a small town in the US. So there's a group of people that are like, yes, let me read about these different places. And then other people are just not interested in it. So
I think you might set a whole new genre going though with those books eventually, because
let's do it.
I think people I've enjoyed reading mysteries, cozies and thrillers, but I don't really want to read thrillers anymore because just the way where I am stage of my life, the way the world is. But I liked your international books because they were faster paced and more action, and I think that's a really good, but it is a different level. But I really liked that as those books. I thought
I think y'all should be using this whole window into another world in your marketing. Like you should be inviting people into these other places with your marketing. That's what I think.
I think that's a really interesting point. And coming on this podcast has really made me think about other podcasts, because I think what I need to do is to go and find those people, because they're not necessarily going to be sitting on Amazon scrolling through books. Amazon ads. So it's what blog posts do I need to do, what podcasts, and it's probably travel writing, the travel blog.
So you can find a podcast that focuses either on Africa or travel, then you're going to have those people who are very interested in that. So that's very smart. That's be a really smart move.
Yep.
Hey, I haven't done it yet.
Or at least worth trying. Yeah, exactly.
And for the blogs, I mean, I have written, a couple of people have come and said, we're travel writers, we've seen your books, we're interested.
Oh, that's great.
the one thing I found is I have some fantastic photos because I'm not a good photographer, but by sheer volume of photographs I have of animals, I can give them a giraffe and a tiger, and a tiger. They don't live in Africa, and a leopard or something hiding in trees or something. So I've got those images which really help bring it to life. But but I know it hasn't worked yet. I haven't got it totally there, but it is making me think slightly outside the box. It's not going to be for me purely Facebook ads, Amazon ads.
Right.
Ads.
Something that you might look into
audience
is Pinterest, especially.
Yes.
Because I listened to a podcast. I'll put it in the show notes. It was the Spa Girls, and they had, I can't remember the name of the guest right now, but she was talking about Pinterest and how she helps authors on Pinterest. And she said, because Pinterest is a search engine, she writes a blog post, creates a beautiful pin, and then later she creates another beautiful pin and pins to that same. And so it's like, she does evergreen content. And so like if you wrote an article about, Kenya and had a pin, you could pin, and then you could, mention your books in there. That might be something that you could give it a try along with the podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember that now, because I was amazed because she wasn't necessarily creating boards. She was creating pins, and then she kept repinning them. She had something where it was just repinning. It was amazing.
I know. I'm still trying to figure out all the details of how that works.
Yeah. I'm not on Pinterest, so I don't even understand it. I was asking my daughter, who does some PA work for me. I'm like, you know Pinterest, right? Can we start looking at Pinterest? And, and she's like, well, you got to tell me what I'm looking for. And I'm like, okay, so that's my job. But I think it's a great idea for what you're doing, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think Pinterest actually suits me better because it is that longer term search content where I can't, Instagram, I just keep forgetting to do it because I go off on something else and I forget to come. I'm just not regular enough on Facebook posts and Instagram to do that. Whereas I think Pinterest you can put and like that lady on the Spa Girl said, you can just, you put it on an automation sequence where it just keeps repinning.
Right. And so in my mind, I thought you create one pin and then you're done.
Yeah.
But apparently not. So
I'll
find out the details.
I thought you created boards, which for each book had boards. And so people went and visited your boards and they saw it. But I think what she was saying is that those boards aren't relevant anymore. It is individual pins which come up in the search engines, and pins like those. And that's why as you say, it's the pin which is probably more important now than the board.
Yeah. Because how many times I do a search for something and half the results are Pinterest pins, so obviously if you can get all your terms right, it could be really good. So,
right.
So there's something for all of us to go look into when we get done here.
When we get time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing I've learned though, is it's prioritizing, and it's not running after every shiny ball, which I was doing at one stage. And by doing this writing challenge that I'm doing, it is every morning, get up and write. And now I'm doing a fitness challenge. So my mornings now are write, run or swim, and write. And I'm finished by about sort of 2:00. But that's great because by sort of 2:00, that is what I've achieved. And anything else I do is a bonus.
Right. And that's two very good things to focus on.
Yes.
I mean, because if you have your writing but no health, that's not good.
No, so it's not good.
Yeah. And then you need the book, so you need the content. So it sounds like you're doing great.
That's great. Yeah.
Oh, well, I've still got lots to learn, and it's all great talking about it, but it's actually doing it and seeing the results. And I've still got a long way to go on all of that.
But you're on the right track and you're doing all the right things. I mean, there are best practices, and then there are things like the Dean, because there are some people that would say the Dean Wesley Smith thing is outside the realm of best practices, but that's for them. That's not for other people. And so you're doing both things. You're doing best practices and you're trying something outside the box, I think, and that will give you more books and more products and more things to give to people. And I think that's great. I think you're on the right track for sure.
And then it's listening, as you've always said, Jami. If someone asks you advice, then you want that person to go and do it. And you guys were really good. I mean, I asked you some things to start with, and Sarah told me about a blog tour. So and I've done that. It's been brilliant. And Jami, you were the one who was saying about going to your list, and then you told me about the Goodreads promotions, which I did for my first book, and I went and did that. And it's trying new things, and that I don't know whether that worked for me or not. I can't quite afford to do it at the moment, but you try the different things, and then you just have to look, as you're talking before with the books, okay, so this book isn't totally on genre. Why isn't it? So then look and say, okay, so my next book is not going to be in Africa. It's I don't know anything about the US. It's going to be in the UK, set in a small village in the Cotswolds. And
I promise there are readers waiting for that book.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll go well. Yeah.
So we'll see.
It's been so great talking to you. And do you have like something that would just kind of sum up? Is there like, what would be the best thing that you've done to set yourself up for success, do you think?
Oh, that's an interesting question when you look out of it all. I think it's to learn, listen, and adapt. Because wherever you are in the journey, there's always another step to take, and when things seem to be down, there's always an up, and there's a way to go. You just need to look around and see what that is. And if you really stuck, join a community, because there's some great communities out there, and people who can buoy you up and help you along, even if you're like me and you're in a location where you can't physically meet people. We're all used to WhatsApp, Skyping, Zoom now, so you can still meet up with people.
That's great. Well, thanks for being here. Tell people where they can find you and your books and your blog and all of that.
Well, my books are at victoriatait.com, and that's Tait, Tait. And because I'm learning, I'm also trying to now set up writing a non-fiction book and doing a blog about that, which is going to be, what have I just bought the domain name? Shoestring Publishing. So I'm going to start by trying to take everything that I've learned, discussed with you, and all the notes that I have, and put them into blog posts, which I can put on the site, and then eventually maybe do hopefully do a non-fiction book. Because I was listening to your money lady on a recent podcast. She was saying, this is when you need to do it, when you need to get those different streams of incomes and see how so it's income, and it's helping people, because you've helped me, so I can help the next person on the journey.
That's how I feel. Yep, exactly. That's awesome. That is so great. Well, we appreciate it. So where else can they find you? Any place?
Maybe Pinterest when I get there, to be honest. When you get, my website is the main thing. I'd like to say go on the other social media, but I'm just not there regularly. At the moment, it's just not my priority.
That's great. That's totally fine.
Yeah, I totally understand that too. So we will have all those links in the show notes, and those will be at wishidknownthenpodcast.com. And thanks to Alexa Larberg for editing and producing the podcast. And we'll see y'all next week. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. We hope this episode inspired you, empowered you, and made you laugh a little bit too. If you loved it, tell your friends about it. And if you feel so inclined, leave us a review. We look forward to being with you again next week.